Good day, y'all, and welcome to episode 32 of the Aaron Wayne podcast. It's fun to sit down by myself and do a little podcast, and I hope you guys are doing well. On this one, we talk about spiritual practice and how it doesn't matter really what you do as long as you're bringing an attitude that fits what it is that you're trying to cultivate. I don't know if that intro makes sense, but I'm going to record it anyway, and I'm going to post it. So, let's do it. There it is. Here we go. Look at me. Look at these flowers. Look at these wildflowers right behind me. You see these? You can't see them if you're just listening. Yeah, man. Just did a podcast with a lady. Now a car is driving by. Okay. Oh, it's a schoolie. They had solar panels on the side. That's super interesting. I guess they do that so they can flip them up. My dog's barking in the van. That's okay because I'm out here. Doors closed. I'm out here podcasting. Yeah, man. Just did one with the lady. I was reflecting on how traveling like this, how challenging it is to actually get a podcast out. Like, I've recorded a couple, and then finding good cell service or good like Wi-Fi. You go to coffee shops all over the country, and you think, oh, it's a coffee shop. They're gonna have Wi-Fi, and they do. But you can't even like load an Instagram picture, which is that doesn't bode well for a podcast, let alone a video podcast. Look how weird I gotta take these sunglasses off, but it's too bright. I just caught a shot of I'm putting the sunglasses back on, even though I can't read my screen. So we're out here doing it. I'm stoked to be podcast. I'm actually, don't tell my wife, but I'm excited to do a solo podcast. We tried to do a podcast with my buddy and his wife in Tahoe, and it's nice doing it with other people, but I like just doing this by myself. I kind of like just talking. Maybe it's because I'm a closeted narcissist. Maybe not so closeted. Why can't I read my notes? I took some notes, and they're not showing up. The only thing I wrote that I didn't get to in the podcast that Katie and I just did. Why is that not working? We just went through. Oh, I see what it is. My laptop was stuck. My corner of my laptop just hit the enter button. Oh, can I Control Z my way out of this? Come on. No notes today. We're going straight off the top of the dome. One of the things I was thinking about was we took this super sketchy road. Because sometimes Google Maps will take you places and you're like, all right, Google, I'm giving you a lot of trust here. And I was on this road that was super sketch, man. Like straight up a mountain. Switchback. It was like I was on a hiking trail. It was like a mountain biking trail that was wide enough for just my van. Nothing else. And I was slipping, sliding, bobbing, weaving, like bumping up and down, and all I could think about was two things. One, I saw things in the national forest. Sometimes when you come out into really remote national forests, there's signs that say like, hey, if you got a bunch of bear bait on you or just food, make sure you handle that properly, or beware, there are rattlesnakes in these hills. So you get those sorts of things. But then when you get deeper out west in like super remote spots, you see things like, if you see illegal activity, report it to the Park Service. And so that's item number one. Item number two is I watched this documentary called Finding Bigfoot on Netflix, and it's not about Bigfoot. It's about these people who were murdered, and it was staged as if Bigfoot had killed them. And the reason they were killed is because of like cannabis growing in some national forest land. And so what that had me thinking about was, this road is so remote. In fact, I drove past a road that showed up on my Google Maps as Bloody Camp Road. And so all the while Katie's, she's reading her book, and I'm like, okay, not only is this road sketch, but I'm just waiting to stumble into some sort of cartel grow operation where they say, hey, You've seen my face. Now I'm going to murder your dogs and your wife and you too. And so I was sketched out. Didn't share that on the drive because I didn't want to like project my anxieties on someone else, but it was a bit sketch, man. I mean, there's the country out here is huge, and if you're watching this on YouTube, like right behind me, there's the ocean. It's right there. And you might be able to hear the 101, which runs at this point parallel to the ocean. Dude, honestly, so speaking of the 101, so we're in Redwood National Park right now, and I just went to the visitor center and, asked some people like, hey, what should I do while I'm here? And I ended up talking to this guy, and he was talking about how, and I had heard about this in Virginia. Apparently part of the 101 like slid into the ocean. Landslide. There was a landslide, and it slid into the highway, slid into the ocean. And so the stretch of highway that we're going over tomorrow on our way to Coos Bay is actually part of it's under construction, and it's single lane. So we're going to have a bit of a bottleneck there, but like the highway is so close to the ocean that it's parts of it landslided into the flipping ocean, which just is like, could you imagine seeing that? If you're wherever you are, just thinking of a whole highway sliding into a river, ocean, lake. It's just far out, man. It's strange. It's different ecology out here. It's very different, but actually slightly similar. So I'm like in deep fog right now. So I can't really see the ocean, but I know that it's there. And that's enough for me. That's enough. That's all I need. I just needed to know that it's there. We finally made it to the West Coast. Thousands of miles, man. Thousands of miles. I think we've hit like 5,000 miles so far. And we're finally at the West Coast. We're ending our trip on the East Coast, like at the beach, with a couple family vacations. But it's cool to see the other ocean and to like honestly, dude, I haven't really been taking time to like sit and enjoy nature. We went to Yosemite, and this is our second day out of Yosemite. We were in Tahoe 2 days ago, so I guess our third day out of Yosemite. Is it right? I don't know. Time's strange. But even like in those really awesome, cool outdoor spaces, I just wasn't finding a similar sense of reverence for it that I typically do when I'm spending time in the outdoors. And I think it's because in the background there's all these like ideas drumming in my head of, okay, where are we camping tonight? How much gas do we have? When's the water tank empty? So there's all these little things that you take for granted when you're like living in a house. I've been living in a van for a month. So there's all these like little things that you don't consider that you have to pay attention to, like how much water are you using when you do the dishes. Katie's been great, man. She's been since I've been handling all of the driving, she has been definitely managing like household stuff, like, oh dude, I do have my notes. So she's been handling like cooking the dinner and making lunch and doing the dishes and stuff, which is just a huge relief because sometimes the drive is really taxing. Sometimes it's super boring, and then other times it's very demanding, like today. Because even though we did that sketchy road where I might have been either eaten by a Bigfoot or killed by a cartel member, and that was like sketchy in its own right for those reasons, and then also it was just a windy gravel road going straight up and down a mountain. But even like the paved roads, it's a lot of winding. It's a lot of like, I need to downshift. Am I wearing up my brake pads? Am I using up all of my gas to go 60 miles an hour up this mountain? Or can I manage going 40 miles an hour? And if so, there are people behind me. I mean, it's just all like, there's just so many pieces to it if you're actually paying attention and trying to be a courteous driver and also trying to be an effective driver, that it ends up taxing breaks out my brain. And it's really nice to have the support in the quote unquote home of our van, where Katie's just kind of crushing it, making sure that dogs get fed. And, I do other stuff. I drive, make sure that everything's working, make sure our power systems are working. I'm grateful that we bought some extra batteries because we haven't had to worry about power at all this trip, which is awesome. Because last summer it was like, all right, we'll turn the fridge off, and then if we open this door and crack this window, then the fans will run more efficient. It's like it got so granular on how we were trying to accommodate our power before, but now we have 400 amp hours of power, which is really nice because then we don't have to worry about it. But yeah, man, I like solo podcasting. I like it. It was nice. I feel like I made Katie slightly self-conscious because I was like on a train of thought, and she brought up some ideas while I was talking. Some might call that interrupting. Others might just call it conversation. And I said something like sort of jokingly, and then I could tell she was a little sensitive to like, do you think I interrupt you? I think in the last podcast we had like a slight argument. But that's okay because that's good for people to see. And it's also, she and I are pretty good at arguing in that we don't typically let our emotions take control of the situation. Sometimes I'm extremely grumpy. Sometimes, she is too. And, we have arguments like normal people, but I think that we grew up together. I've been with my wife since I was 13 years old. We weren't married at 13. But we grew up together. So like we know how to communicate in a different way. So my notes, posting podcasts on the road, solo podcasting. Yeah, so posting podcasts on the road has been kind of a pain in the ass, like trying to figure out how to get them uploaded. And then also, for some reason, this MacBook this MacBook was the first MacBook. I bought it like refurbished, and it's actually, for what I spent like $600 on this, and it is really like done the work. So I'm proud of you, little MacBook. But it sometimes glitches out, and I can't download the most recent version of GarageBand, which is where I record my podcast. So sometimes it glitches out, and I panic because you spend an hour doing a podcast. You're like, I better not lose this. I just put all this time in. It's hard to find the time to do it because we're driving, and then also we're exploring, and so managing the time of trying to find a space to do this. And I'm committed to doing this, man. I really enjoy doing it. I know it's really good for me mentally, and I know that people are listening, and like it's just, I need to make sure that this gets done because of, putting good vibes out on the internet, and then also articulating my thoughts is really helpful. So it's just kind of challenging to find it on the road, but it's like challenging to do anything. Like I haven't been on a run. I haven't been on a run in a month. I've ridden my bike a couple times. We've done a lot of hiking, so I'm not like, it's not that I'm sedentary. Even though, when you're driving 3 hours every other day, and at the beginning of the trip, the first like week and a half, it was driving 6 to 9 hours a day just to get out of the Midwest and off the East Coast. There has been a fair amount of sedentary time, but so we've been fairly active, but there's no routine to find. I can't seem to find myself in a clear routine, and I think that's okay. I'm trying to be in a space where I accept that and I kind of let that be and don't have expectations, because I don't really have any expectations right now, which in of itself is actually kind of stressful in a strange way. Like, I plan these trips with Katie, and I post it, and people are like, and we'll meet people, like we are at a brewery in Tahoe and telling people what we were doing, and they're like, oh my God, I'm so jealous. And like, that is cool, but it comes back to, I was listening to a Ram Dass podcast on the road today. Not a podcast, like an old recording. It's called Be Here Now, from, I don't know what the podcast network is, but this guy named Raghu Marcus like hosts it, and then he puts in some clips from Ram Dass, and somebody had asked him the question of, what should I do this? Should I do that? Basically, was what it was. Like, should I take option A or option B? I don't remember what the specifics of the situation were, but he said, like, it doesn't really matter. You move to San Francisco, you move to New York, your neuroses are going to roll with you. And so, like, all of the things that come up in my life of, like, I don't feel an immense amount of anxiety, but I am prone to depressive episodes rather, and aggression. Like, all of that stuff still, even though we're out here doing this thing, like, that stuff is still very much alive in me. And like for example in AA they call, or in 12-step programs they call it pulling a location or pulling a relocation or something like that. Like people that have addictive qualities, they think, and this isn't, I'm not a specialist in this, but like having like relationships with that program tangentially, they say, people think that they can just pick themselves up and move themselves somewhere and then they'll find peace. And I'm not alluding to the fact that I don't have peace. Like I'm continuing to work in the process, but just traveling like this doesn't fix anything. It's cool. I love doing it, but like Ram Dass says, we got to be able to find sacred in the everyday. So finding value and beauty and spirituality and just like the normal things we do on a day-to-day basis, instead of always being in a space of clutching and trying to like, if I do this, then I will get that. It's not gonna get, you're never gonna get there. You're never gonna get there, man. Yeah. Let's get back to these notes. Hopefully that tangent made sense. I think it did. It felt right. Cold lakes. I've been doing a lot of cold lake plunges lately. That's a thing that you get out here. These high mountain lakes at like 9,000 feet. We did a hike, which we talked about in the podcast that Katie and I just recorded. That this one I'm going to post on Thursday, and the one that she and I did together is going to post on Monday, last Monday of June. And then this one would be the first Thursday of what month is after June? July. So I talked about some lakes that we woke up for they're called Sunrise Lakes in Yosemite, and they were beautiful. I mean, it was really, really cool. Tough hike, challenging hike. But she and I both had the right spirit, and that's my point. That's my point, man. Like, you bring yourself to all of the situations in your life. You come with those experiences. And if you haven't taken the time to do whatever work it is that you need to do to ameliorate your grumpiness, your aggression, your distractedness, your frustrations, like if you haven't done that work, it doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter whether you go to Sunrise Lakes. It doesn't matter if you go to the Redwood. It doesn't matter where you go. If you're all screwed up, man, like it doesn't matter what you're doing, because you're still going to be bringing that same energy. So the real work is internal work, and that internal work doesn't happen from going to do cool things. It's about examining who you are, what your tendencies are, and then sitting with it and accepting it and noticing it. So Sunrise Lakes, we went there, little sunrise, woke up wicked early and went and crushed that. And I didn't get in that lake, but it was because the vibe wasn't right. People were camping and a couple people were fly fishing. And if my like big hairy bearded self just jumped into the lake like cannonball, like it didn't fit the vibe. But then after that we went down to, I think it's called Tamaya Lake, which is a big lake in Yosemite that's right off the road. We parked, put up the hammock, and had lunch. Well, first we had a nap because I woke up at 5 a.m, and we had just hiked like 6 or 7 miles, and then took a little nap, had some lunch, and then I ended up jumping in the lake. And I've really been enjoying jumping in cold lakes. Back home I would do ice baths from time to time. Did a lot of hot baths. We found some hot springs, which were really cool. Did a lot of hot baths at home, especially once hot yoga at my studio. Sort of like the temperature came down a little bit for a couple different reasons, but the cold plunge in a lake is a very awesome experience. The water is always so clear in these mountain lakes. Coming from the east, so many of the lakes are kind of pond scummy. There's like high humidity, a lot of mosquitoes, for those of you who need a translation. And there's also a fair amount of agricultural runoff in a lot of these lakes, so they end up getting kind of funky, which is like fine. You can swim in them. You just want to take a shower so you don't get an ear infection or something. But the lakes out here, it's just all snow melt, so they're wicked cold, and they're also super clear. And I've really been enjoying just jumping in. When I say jumping in, I mean cautiously walking myself in. And then also swimming in, I guess it's a creek. We were trying to decide this on the podcast, the distinction between a creek and a river. Still don't know the answer. Oh, the sun's coming out through the fog. That's lovely. In Yellowstone, there's a stream or a creek or whatever you call it that runs through the valley. And so for a couple of days, we were in Yosemite and we would just do challenging hikes in the morning. Saw huge, crazy views of El Capitan. And then we would spend our afternoons like down in the valley, have some lunch, and then kind of just like wade into the water and chill and hang out, which was really awesome. And again, it's the vibe you bring to it, man. I think I'm getting better at it. You know, we've done trips like this many times. And one of the biggest regrets that I have at the ends of the trips is always, I wish that I had been less irritable. It's always that, man. It's like vacation with the fam, road trips with my wife, even, you know, hiking on the weekends, whatever it is. Like, the tendency I have is to just be irritable with people, and I always regret it. And I think I'm grateful. You know, to be frank, like, you know, Katie and I have been mildly irritable with each other today because we thought we signed up for a 2-hour drive, turned into a 4-hour drive, an hour of which was on these crazy Bigfoot cartel laden roads that were sketchy to drive on inherently because of the nature of the roads. And so we were mildly irritable when we got to camp today. And we also got to camp at like 1 o'clock today, 1:30, and took an hour and just kind of chilled and played on our phones, which, you know, we haven't had much phone access, which is kind of interesting and cool, but also you still want to play on the internet. And so we've been mildly irritable with each other today, but on the whole, I would say that she and I have really found a groove of how to just, you know, hey, you're irritable right now. That's okay. And then that makes it easier. Like when she's irritable or when I'm irritable, and she just kind of shrugs it off like, no, these aren't your real emotions. These are just things that are popping up for you right now. And then vice versa. It lets that settle a bit more easily. So, that's always been my biggest regret at the end of trips, and I'm grateful that she and I are doing it right this time. Not to say that we hadn't in the past, but you know, you just get better at things over time. Like our relationship is tighter, communication is clearer. We are, and all that's interesting and cool. But it's also really interesting how much. Okay, car. We're parked on the side of. It's called the Old California Highway. It runs parallel to the 101, and it's just like kind of a sketchy highway. I don't even know why people are driving on this. I thought it was like condemned or something, but whatever. But we've gotten better at traveling. The small logistical things that need to happen to do something of this scale, you know, this amount of time, it's challenging, you know. And I think we're sort of dialed in on how to do this style of travel. I got a lot of bugs on my windshield. I don't know how to manage that because, you know, you do a 3-hour drive and you're collecting all these bugs on your windshield in the hood of your car. By the time you stop, the bugs are dried. How much karma am I accumulating with that endeavor? Taking this massive van through the highways, massacre. It's a genocide of little critters. Sorry, critters. I was laying in bed about 2 weeks ago, and I felt like a tss on my thigh, and it was a bee. Somehow a bee had gotten into my bonnet and stung my leg. I don't wear a bonnet on my leg. I think you wear a bonnet on your head. What is a bonnet? People have bonnets? Either way, there was a bee in mine, and it stung my leg, and I freaked out, grabbed it, and I killed it. But it was like a slow kill. I felt so bad. I was like, I'm sorry, bee. But it was like he was too far gone. Like bees don't, he's not going to go to the bee hospital, the bee emergency room. So I killed him. And I apologized because I genuinely did feel bad. But all those bugs on my windshield, y'all can burn in hell. You ever run over a butterfly? I've been running over butterflies lately. They just don't get out of the road, man. Like a squirrel, like you can slow down a little bit and be like, all right, squirrel. I haven't hit a squirrel in a very long time. because I'm cautious about that. And even when I'm walking on the hiking trail, I sort of watch my feet. Not, it's not a laborious process to watch my feet while I walk. Sometimes I just kind of peek down, and if I see an ant or some sort of critter, I just make a little sidestep. It's not a big deal. There's no sense in killing it. And so it's the same thing with squirrels. Like, I'll slow down a little bit. But butterflies, man, like I can't deal with you guys. Why do they call them butterflies? We were talking about that on the trail the other day. They're not butterflies. They're flutterflies. What is a butterfly? Butter? Butter? What does that mean? Maybe because they're yellow. I don't know. Is butter even yellow? Don't they dye all that stuff? I don't know. They're called flutterflies, so I'm renaming them flutterflies. The other day, I was on my Instagram, and I'll bring this up because I put it in my notes. Just I was listening to Rich Roll's podcast. All I do is drive, listen to podcasts, and make podcasts. That's all I do. That's not true. I do a lot more than that. It's just a joke. Ha ha ha. So I was listening to Rich Roll's podcast, and he was talking about this guy named James Lawrence, a.k.a. the Iron Cowboy. The sun went away, and now it is freezing. If you've ever been to San Francisco, you walk around during the day, and I'm not in San Francisco, but I'm like maybe a couple hours north of there. You walk around, and you're like, oh, it's a beautiful day. It's like 90 degrees and sunny. And then come 4 o'clock, a crazy fog jumps in, and it drops in 20 degrees with the quickness. And that's what I'm experiencing right now. This whole region that I'm looking at, like, I had a beautiful view of a lagoon and of the ocean, and now I just see fog and hear cars on the 101. What are you gonna do? So so James Lawrence, he just did 101 iron distance triathlons, and just for like scale, that's like, I think it's a little over 2-mile swim, and then 100-mile bike, and then a marathon. I don't know what the swim is. I think it's like 2.2, maybe 2.6. I don't remember. It's probably in kilometers, and they just convert it. So it's an over 2-mile swim, a 100-mile bike ride, and then a marathon. He did that every day for 100 days without stopping, no breaks. And then to celebrate the 100th day, he did it one more time. He did one more. He did 101 iron distance triathlons. And then when I hear that kind of thing, it kind of screws up my head, man. Like, I think about my fleeting youth. I'm 32. I think about how much more time I have to build a genuine base of athleticism that will allow me to do something that's genuinely challenging. But then, you have more forgiveness for yourself, and you think, if it's hard for me, it's hard for me. It doesn't have to be something like that. I mean, he's an elite athlete. I don't know. Like, you look at someone like Tom Brady or LeBron James. Those are my two sports references because I don't know anything else. But you look like at cats like that. I don't even know how these guys play. I don't know anything about this. But, like, I'm using these because they're, like, in the zeitgeist. Like, they're popular enough for me to know about them, and I don't watch any sports. But you look at someone at the top of their game in a sport, and you think, I can't do that. I can't do what LeBron James does or XYZ athlete. But then you look at someone who does something like an Ironman, and you think, well, he's just running and swimming and riding a bike. Like, I could do that. And so I think that, I'm super interested in endurance sports. I think Western States happens today. I think it's today. Yeah, Saturday, June 26th. It's the last weekend of June. So, like, for example, the people running Western States right now, they're probably on the trail still. Well, I don't know what time is it. It's 6 o'clock local. They probably started at so they're on the trail right now. You look at people that do that sort of thing, and you think it's so elemental and like clear, and doesn't require as much, minute doctoring of your training regimen to do. And you're like, I could do that. At least that's me. Like, I think if I really put myself to it, I could do it. And then you start thinking, like, no, you're not an elite athlete. But I think about my youth fleeting when I think about those sorts of things. Is this a happy podcast? I don't know. I feel happy. I feel good. I'm going to have to listen back to this and figure out what it was about. And the recording just cut off. But I'm going to, the video cut off. Happens every flipping time. I just can't pace it right. I'm 29 minutes into the audio right now. The video cuts out at like 29 some minutes. But that's okay. It's alright. I've been doing a lot of talking today. Actually, I haven't. I've just been driving. I don't know. I hope you guys, I hope I'm putting out good vibes. I hope that by, in some way, showing and putting words to the confusing emotions and experiences that I have at times allows people to understand that your emotions are probably just as confusing. And, you look at somebody, I'm not saying people look to me, but, you look at somebody who's out doing a 2-month travel on the road, like, oh my God, they're seeing the world. They're seeing the whole country. They're seeing everything. And it's just important to know that all people are people. It's just normal to be confused. Sometimes I'm confused. Sometimes I'm not confused. I was thinking today about there's this Swami, and his name escapes me right now. But what he would do is he would ask people, "Who are you?" And he would do it in a way that elicited, like this is his thing. That's his thing. That's what he does. You walk up to this cat and he's like, "Who are you?" And I was thinking about that today, actually. And I was thinking, if someone were to ask me that question, and they were looking for the type of answer that, I'm discussing right now. Not like, no, I'm Aaron. I'm a teacher. I'm a yoga teacher. My husband. My son. Dog dad. If someone were to ask me that and actually wanted to know a deeper answer, I think the answer would be that it depends on the day. Because some days I really know who I am. I really know. I know the depths of the body and mind that I embody in this incarnation. And I can sort of operate in a way of being aware of how those machines operate and work while still being able to resonate with a higher presence. And not super hippy-dippy, this doesn't have to be some I'm transcending kind of thing. It's not like that. It's just these are my tendencies. This is what my body does. This is what my mind does. And I can work with those things. And then other days, I'm just totally confused. I'm totally confused sometimes. And I think that the higher point is that there's no difference between those two states, so long as you can accept that all things change. Everything is in a constant state of changing. It's a constant state of flux. And I think that's a good place to end it, guys. I'm going to whisper into the microphone now. Katie's making some din-din, and I'm feeling hungry, and the camera stopped recording. So the last 5 minutes are audio only. If you hung out for the audio only, good on you. I'm proud of you. I hope you guys are doing well, man. Punchline here. What's the punchline? What do I want to say is a punchline? I think the punchline is to just know that you're okay. I said this in the podcast that I ended up deleting with my friend Tucker. My fundamental wish is for people to understand that they can develop tools that will allow them to feel okay. And it's equally relevant to me to remember that I have developed tools to allow me to feel okay. And so I hope you find a way to feel okay. That's all I want. Ram Dass says, is this like the 10th time I've mentioned Ram Dass in this 30-minute podcast? Ram Dass says, all that I can do for you is work on myself. And all that you can do for me is to work on yourself. And I hope that lands with you. And I hope you have fun with it. I'll see you guys on the next one. There it is, guys. 32. I think it was 32. Oh, yikes. I gotta look back at the thing. That's it. Wrapping it up. Shoot me an email. Hit me with a DM. Everything's at Aaron Wayne Yoga or AaronWayneYoga.com. Hope you guys are doing well, and I'll catch you on the next one.